All right, welcome to another episode of the Logicast. My name is BlankaKong, joined by Gunner Eos and Hollow Wolf. This week's episode is going to be about Monster Hunter Wilds. So far, we've seen about, I think, 11 weapon trailers so far, out of the, I believe, 14. Presumed 14, because there might be a new weapon that they might show. Who knows, right? We don't know that yet as of the recording. As of the recording of this particular episode, the last trailer that we've seen was for the Switch Axe. That was the last trailer. So anything after the Switch Axe reveal, uh, we wouldn't know about. So maybe we're recording this early. I don't know, but we wanted to talk about it. Most of the weapons have been showcased. Our main weapons have been showcased already. So the remaining weapons are lance, bow, and dual swords. So we're waiting on those. So we won't be talking about those three weapons, unfortunately, as there's no new information. So we're gonna talk about Wilds. We're gonna talk about the new weapons. We're gonna talk about the new mechanics and such. And we're also gonna talk about older Monster Hunter mechanics and how it compares and what we prefer. So yeah. So whoever wants to kick it off, feel free. If not, then I'll continue to speak. But I want to give you guys an opportunity to say anything that you might have on your mind.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, I'll take the layup. Um, yeah, so far we still don't know a whole lot. We were shown, which I missed. Luckily, we did a quick overview of all the videos released by Capcom. They added a new system called the Focus System, which we were kind of discussing, like how that's going to work in a group hunt scenario, since everything Capcom's been showing are 1v1s, and just like the the theory crafting about how that new system is going to work when you're hunting with players, like what are the detriments, because a lot of these focus moves are fancy moves, but are they going to leave you open for a swipe, a fireball, a hyper beam? I don't know. We'll find out. So that's like the major new thing they showed was this whole new focus mechanic system that every weapon seems to take advantage of, which is uh, it's either a replacement for tenderizer or it is a system that works in conjunction with tenderizing. As a bowgun main, it looked like it was a system that I can use to kind of mimic tenderizing without having to latch onto the monster and do a tenderizing animation like World Iceborne. I don't know if that's true because they did show the light bowgun attaching to the monster and shooting off of its back. So it seems like I can still do that too in some capacity. I'm assuming with the Splinger, since that's another mechanic that they brought back. So yeah, as far as new mechanics, that's the only one we've been shown, and the mount, the whole new Wyvern mount, but we kind of seen that since the promotional trailers, the first trailer of the game. So we knew to expect for that, but they basically gave a rundown of that one, showing what you could do. You could pick up items, sharpen. They show that you can have a sub and a main weapon, so you could have two weapons on you. That's pretty interesting. That makes for dynamic play. And then you can summon the mount pretty much anywhere, and it'll ride you to the monster, kind of like the Palamute from Sunbreak and Rise. So, but anyway, to wrap it up, yeah, it looks good. It looks like it's following the Iceborne world kind of family of gameplay, which I am definitely I'm here for. Rise was cool for like the first month, but after a while, the whole zipping got a little bit too much, and it felt like I was a god compared to these monsters, and it kind of threw the balance off of Monster Hunter for me. So I'm glad we're going back to the Iceborne style of play. So that's reassuring, but it's not all slow old man hunting. We saw with weapons like Hammer, they have a huge boost to mobility. Gunlance has a big boost to their mobility. So, it's not going to be super slow hunting. They're going to be like, every weapon's going to have something that gives them a dash, a slide, something to just have that mobility, even if they're not a super fast weapon like dual blades or light bowgun or sword and shield. So that's good to see. That's good to see that the heavy weapons, even the weapons that don't have a shield to rely on, kind of have some mobility options, but they don't seem as really overpowered and out there as Rise had. So it looks like they struck a good balance. Yeah, the weapon designs look good. They showed some armor designs from what we can only assume are yet to be announced monsters. Some returning monster designs. Oh boy, Raphalos, surprising no one. And then old school um, Monster Hunter armors, like the Iron set that they showed with Gunlance. So,
Mhm.
so that looks good. I'm glad. I'm glad they're bringing back old style armor. Me personally, I hope they have the layered system on day one. I'm a glamour fiend, so if they have that from the beginning, cool. Um, yeah, so far so good. I like the new moves the weapons got, and I'm kind of like the last weapon. Me personally, I'm looking forward to is seeing if they did anything crazy with Bo, seeing as Bo got a complete rework in Monster Hunter World. So I'm curious to see what they do with Bo. But yeah, as a light bowgun main, I'm happy with what I saw. I need to see stuff in regards to numbers, which obviously we're not going to get for a while. But from the trailer that they showed, yeah, I'm down. I'm happy with it. So yeah, so far so good. I mean, it's looking real good so far. Hope to see some, monster trailers at some point, showing off maybe some of the new monsters or returning monsters. But yeah, looking good, looking good.
All right, Wolf, do you have any like first impressions before we kind of dive in?
Um, Gonna pretty much sum it up. First impression is the weapons look new enough to want to learn, but grounded. Um, yeah, that's pretty much it. So we can go forward.
All right, so the first thing we should probably discuss is focus mode. So focus mode is totally new to the game. They did have a targeting system in past Monster Hunter games, where it would like automatically target the monster itself, so that you didn't have to manually move the camera. So in old school Monster Hunter, we're talking like PS2, PSP days, 3DS days, you had to manually move the camera along with the control of the character, or you could hit L trigger and the camera would reset to wherever the hunter's facing. So as long as you're facing the monster, you could hit L trigger and it'll face the monster. So there was the two main ways that you could control the camera. I control the camera manually, personally, through all Monster Hunter games, even with the new targeting system that they introduced, I think, in World, and even with the L trigger feature, I never used it. I've always just controlled the camera in conjunction with my character. So focus mode seems to kind of help you track the monster better without what I'm assuming without actually moving the camera manually. I could be off on that. I'm not too sure as we haven't played the game yet. But more specifically, focus mode allows, I'm assuming, access to your focus attack, and not to be confused with focus attacks from Street Fighter 4. But your focus attack in this game is kind of like a special move or a special art, kind of like the special moves that you got in Monster Hunter Rise. Um, and those attacks give you, from based on the trailers, gave you bonus damage if you use them on weak spots. We also established, we watched the trailers and kind of picked it apart a little bit, slowed it down. It looks like once you hit or do a certain amount of damage on a weak spot via a focus attack, the weak spot no longer glows in that focus mode. So there is like, you can't just spam it or whatever. Like you probably have to like re-tenderize the part and re-weaken it. It also focus mode, it kind of functions like Batman Vision in Arkham Asylum. It's like you'll hit the button and like certain things will glow. So that focus
Mhm.
mode also does that. So when you go into focus mode, the game will kind of highlight with like glowing red spots where you should be attacking, where certain weakened parts are located, to help the player. During the Gunlance trailer, we noticed that the Gunlance character was doing her focus attack, which is like this weird like drill, running attack, and the monster had weak spots on its head and it's like arm and it's like its side, and or no, I think it was his head and its arm or something like that. And she started at the head, and as the glowy weakened part on the head disappeared, the character started to shift to the arm, to the next glowy part. So I
Mm-hmm.
assume that that's all automatic. The player didn't really have to do anything to make that happen. That just kind of happened. It's kind of like auto aim in like first person shooter games, where like the game will kind of jerk your reticle to like the closest target to kind of help your accuracy. So that's what I got from focus mode. Did I miss anything, or is there anything you guys wanted to discuss specifically?
Oh, to me, focus mode is just a more I guess a evolved version of what tenderizing was in World and Iceborne. So
Yeah.
that's how I look at it, which is good because it didn't it doesn't it doesn't hinder you from playing against the monster. Um, but at the same time, I also found myself in various hunts where the real DPS doesn't start until somebody tenderizes a monster part, and that makes the hunt for me a little longer. So, um, we'll see how that works.
Yeah. That's a
Because
good
what
point.
I don't want hunts where it's like, oh, nobody really wants to do anything until, and it's like this is dragging on where the monster takes HP damage regardless. So just hit the monster.
Yeah, I mean, my always thing with tenderizing, which is why you could flame me in the comments, it's fine. I never really tenderized when I solo hunted. No, scratch that. I never tenderized when I solo hunted. And because guys like Kong and Zeta and Esoteric, like the guys with the big weapons, they would
Hmm.
tenderize. Because for those that don't know, in the World Series, light weapons, or what the game would consider light weapons, like sword and shield, dual blade, light bow guns, insect glaive, I believe. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, and bow. They had to hit the enemy twice because the whole synergy was heavy weapons would instantly tenderize, and light weapons would tenderize on the second latch of the monster. The first one being the ability to drop um, items that you can fit into your slinger to shoot at the monster or shoot at the environment. So the
Hmm.
synergy that Capcom wanted was light weapons would drop ammo for everybody to use on slingers, and heavy weapons would instantly tenderize. But obviously, you might play a hunt solo and you're using a light bow gun. You're gonna want to tenderize, so you could do it on the second hit. But my logic was it was I'm a light bowgun. I know they changed how armor works in Monster Hunter World to there was no longer hunter and gunner armor. Gunner armor was notoriously low in defense compared to Blade Master armor. But they kind of took that out, so we kind of had the same armor, but still, like when you're fighting, if you're an Iceborne and you're fighting a G rank Tailstra, the last thing I want to do, me personally especially, is to get within range of his paws. So I never tenderized because it's just like this is the antithesis of my weapon. I'm a gun. I'm supposed to be at range. So for me to have to
Hmm.
tenderize puts me in melee range, which is dangerous. So me, when I play by myself, I knew I was doing less damage by not tenderizing because tenderizer, the skill tenderizer, would literally benefit from tenderization. So I knew I essentially was wasting a skill when I hunted solo, but I took that L, knew the hunts were going to be longer, but knew I could still clear it by myself because I just felt tenderizing as a bow gunner was just too dangerous and not worth it half the time. Maybe that's a skill issue. I don't know. Call it what you will, but that's just how I played the game. So now with this whole new focus mechanic, and it's seeming that you can injure body parts simply by attacking them. That is beneficial for ranged guys like me because now I can feel like I'm participating in the mechanic without having to sacrifice the playstyle. Whereas, melee guys, they're going to be up in the monster's face anyway, so it's not abnormal for them. They're used to being in a Rathalos' face to tenderize. So if that's how the focus system works, I'm understanding it correctly, I guess we'll find out when a demo eventually arrives. Um, that I'm down with, because now I can participate in the mechanic, like I said, without putting myself in jeopardy. So if I'm understanding it correctly, focus is a big W. I like it.
I definitely prefer it over tenderizing. I do. And from if it's just simply DPS throughout the fight, and eventually those spots open up, they're weak points typically, anyways. Most of the times, there's monsters who have its hind legs as its weak points. There are monsters that has its face as its weak point. Most monsters' faces are their weak points. So,
Right.
if it's just straight DPS, then I'll like it even more. But if I have to go with the whole slinger thing and moving the monster to a certain angle to fly them into the wall, I hated that, to be honest with you. I really didn't. I didn't use it, and I'm a greatsword user, so I never used it. The greatsword pushes enough DPS.
Yeah, I never did wall bangs when I was solo. It was always Kong and another guy we used to play with. They were predominant wall bangers. They were the bangers.
Yeah, there
And I was
was.
like, yeah, go guys, woo! I believe in you.
But even in fights that I did with even like lobbies when I joined with randoms, it would be like everybody's running around the monster like chickens with their heads cut off until someone is brave enough to latch on to the monster to warbang him or to tenderize him, and it's like, just hit the monster. And
Yeah, see, I never experienced that because I either did solo or with you guys. I rarely hunted with random people. So, but yeah, it's the fact that people are just kind of like milling about, sort of in a way, until someone latches and then everybody jumps on it like piranhas. It's just like, see, like that's
Yeah.
the mechanic, that's the mechanic, in my opinion, not working well with a more traditional playstyle of just hitting the monster, which seems to be kind of what they're trying to rectify in Wilds with the focus thing. It just comes from injuring the monster, and obviously there's probably going to be a cooldown. And we saw in the trailers that when someone hits the monster with a focus attack, that focus zone disappears. So
Right.
you're gonna have three dudes all trying for the head. Only one of them's gonna get it. So people got to spread out. Bow gunners and bows are gonna have like the higher reaches of the monster to kind of get, and then like everybody could spread out. Hunting horns and hammers to the front for the KO, and charge blades. Not hating on the charge blades. So I think it's gonna kind of focus people to not crowd around the head and kind of spread out, because everybody's gonna want to get their cool focus attack, animation attack. So I'm fine with that.
So, I don't know. I don't know enough to kind of solidify my opinion on focus. Right now, I'm okay with it because it just seems like a new mechanic or a new gimmick to reward the player with damage and to kind of like guide the player as to how to hunt in this game. So I don't think it's a bad thing. I don't know if I love the whole like auto aim feature. I don't know if I like that.
I can agree with you there too.
I can't say because I like to. So whenever I play like first person shooters, and I'm not like a god at first person shooters at all. Like I'm very average at best at those games, or in most games for that matter. But I always turn off auto aim because while it's helpful, I don't call it. You call me dumb or whatever. I don't care. But like, it's like a weird honor thing where it's just like that's if I play with auto aim and at the end of the mission it's like, oh, you had 87% accuracy. There's an asterisk next to that in my mind because it's like, well, how much of that 80% was me versus the auto aim? Like, cause, it doesn't make that distinction. So it's like, I'd rather just turn it off, and I'd rather see, oh, you had 35% accuracy. I'm like, yeah, that looks more correct, right? Than the 87% accuracy because I know it's true. Some people might argue, well, it's a feature in the game, and you should be allowed to use it, and I don't disagree with that. But personally, I don't see myself using. Well, I know I don't use auto aim in shooters, and in this game, I'm not gonna say I'm not gonna use focus because I think it's a big opportunity for damage, but I don't think I'm gonna use it nearly as much as the average player. I can, based on what I know so far, I can only see myself using it to quickly identify weak spots and to access the focus attack, special attack move. Assuming I even need to use focus in order to use the attack, I might be able to just use the attack spontaneously. And if that's the case, then I'll probably just flick it on real quick just to get that visual, to know what I'm attacking, and then turn it off, and then just kind of play normally, what I consider normally again. So, I mean, I think it's a great tool for newer players, because Monster Hunter is a really hard game to get into if you're new to the series, because there's just so much content, and there is a learning curve. So I'm not against the system existing. It's just a system that I don't see myself really utilizing all that much because I don't really need to use it like that. Because we've been playing Monster Hunter for like almost 20 years
A while
now. So like
Almost
you know,
20
when we
years.
started playing,
about 18
yeah,
years.
we started playing what, like 2008, 2009, something like that. And so I think I'm okay. Like I think my legacy skill will kind of fill in the gaps that focus mode would otherwise do for a newer player. So I'm okay with it. I don't think I'm going to use it as much as like your average person. As far as tenderizing goes, I didn't mind tenderizing. That's very easy for me to say as a person who used heavy weapons. But I think even with light weapons, I would have just done the two latches and whatever. But I could see why that's annoying for like people with air quotes light weapons, because it takes away from your ability to play the weapon normally, and then now the game is about latching and not about hunting. And so I get the complaint.
Yeah.
That's what
I
it
totally
was.
get it.
Yeah.
So for me, it was like it wasn't that bad, right? Because I played hunting horn and hammer, and I'm definitely gonna play hunting horn. I'm definitely gonna play hammer in this game, and the heavy bowgun's looking like a lot of fun. So those are probably the three weapons I'm gonna main. We'll see. But if they bring back tenderizing, I don't mind personally. If they bring back like wall banging, I don't mind personally because I was one of the main guys in the group to do the wall bang. And to me, that was a part of my rotation. So, like, for me, when I was playing Hunting Horn, it was like, okay, get the buffs up. And once the buffs are up, all right, is the monster pissed? Cool, he's not pissed? Great, so I can wall bang. And if the monster's pissed, then it's like, okay, time to tenderize the head. Then I try to tenderize all the parts. At least all the main parts. I'll try to tenderize everything, but, like, wherever you guys are focusing your attacks on as well, I'll make sure the tenderizer stays up as much as possible. And then it's like, okay, buffs are up. Like, for me, it's kind of like how people play MMORPGs, where it's like you're doing a rotation of things. That's kind of how I played Monster Hunter World. It was just like, okay, buffs, wall bang, tenderize, buffs, and then, by the time that, like, I'm doing my third round of buffs, wall bang is available again. So it just kind of that's what hunting became for me in that game. Whereas if I compared it to older Monster Hunter, let's say Monster Hunter 4 or Monster Hunter but Ultimate 3, my rotation was like buffs, head damage, buffs, head damage, buffs, head damage. So like that was it, right? And then healing in between as I get hit. That was it. So I appreciated the extra layer of responsibility in world, which is why I don't look at it poorly, because for me it was like that was fun being responsible, or I made myself responsible for the tenderizing, for the KO knockouts, for the buffing, for the wall banging. Like every hunt felt like I had to really play and like really focus, and that's an exhausting way to play the game, but I enjoyed it. I loved playing Monster. I really enjoyed my time with that game. So I'm happy to see that this game is going back to that style and weight. And as far as the focus mode goes, it's fine. It's whatever. I'm probably not going to use it as much as other people. So With that being said, we talked about tenderize, we talked about focus. There seems to be this like parry system in the game, and they haven't explicitly said that there's a parry system, but I think that there is. And we watched a lot of the trailers, watch all of the trailers, and we've established that like yeah, shielded weapons have some sort of parry that leads into some sort of like pre-animated like grab attack. So the greatsword, for example, in the trailer, the player blocked with the greatsword at like a certain time, and then it automatically went into this animation where he stuck the greatsword in the monster's mouth and kind of struggled with the monster, and then kind of pushed the monster away. And so that to me looked like a parry leading into like some sort of grab attack. And then the heavy bowgun also had something similar. Heavy bowgun has a shield on it, always has, and it had that same kind of attack where the hunter stuck the barrel of the heavy bowgun into the monster's mouth and then exploded it, right? And then we saw something similar with I think what was it? Gunlance? I think it was Gunlance.
Gunlance, yeah.
So
yeah.
what do you guys think of like the potential air quotes parry system for shielded weapons? How do you guys feel about that?
Well, it's nice to see that not only longswords can parry now. Longswords are supposed to do everything. Or longsword, you pull Exodia, automatically win. Yeah.
Big longsword fan, huh?
Huge longsword fan. Anyway, stop talking about the noob stick. The parry system, at least with the greatsword, like I was saying the other day with the GS, it's more important to me that any game or iteration that they come out with the greatsword has more utility options, not necessarily DPS options, or to be more aggressive. There's a lot of aggressive weapons in the game, and I know the greatsword prime, like it's in its name, right? So when you hear the name greatsword, you automatically think heavy hitting, something big, something sharp, something with a lot intimidating. And I understand that and I respect it, but I also have a sense of appreciation for weapons with utility, which is why at some point in every iteration, I always lean to sword and shield, because sword and shield has more utility. And sometimes even when I'm playing sword and shield, there's things on the sword and shield I see that I would love to have in the greatsword. So a parry for the greatsword, if it can't have the utility that the wire bugs allowed in Sunbreak, if it can't have those utility moves or that one very important utility move, then having a parry or a counter or just a special block that prevents the monster from taking unnecessary amount of HP from using such a slow weapon is always appreciated. Always. I hope it's a strong mechanic. I hope it's not a cutscene just for the game to be extra. But I really hope it's a mechanic that the weapon can use. It's a mechanic that will allow less potion taking or less rolling out of the way. But more so, if I can't get the utility defensively, give me the utility so offensively that I stay safe in the fight, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, so you're basically asking them like to hope that they reward more aggressive play within a skill level. So like if you're skillful enough to activate the parry or the counter or the hyper armor, whatever it might be, that you might take less damage or no damage, but it doesn't stop your flow of combat. Yeah, okay.
Right.
I get that. Yeah.
Because I get it. The weapon is supposed to be an extremely aggressive weapon. So I don't like me asking for it to have something like, like things like Sword and Shield have, or Lance or Gun Lance, where they have like defensive utility options. Like Gun Lance and Lance have the hop, which has an amazing of invincibility frames. Sword and Shield has about 3 techniques with invincibility frames. Plus, Sword and Shield has the shield. They can block. They can use the items when the weapon is out. So it's like that's not even the jack of all trades kind of weapon. It's the primary utility weapon. It's the weapon that's like, okay, versatile. It's ultimately versatile.
Yeah.
But greatsword is more, it leans more into being straight aggressive. So because I've been playing greatsword since my first Monster Hunter game, it's been getting better, but it's still always this thing in the back of my mind. Like if I miss or if I commit to this attack and I fail, I get hit. But like Rise and, well, Iceborne introduced the tackle, which I can use mid-charge, which is good because I no longer can commit or no longer have to commit to my charge levels. So that was amazing. And then Rise added, with the wire bug mechanic, it added the dash. So I can dash away from a monster and automatically sheath my weapon to reposition myself, which is also good. It was like those two mechanics together is the only two attacks I ever needed for the greatsword. So that's why Rise has a special place in my heart, because it gave me essentially the perfect iteration of the greatsword that I looking for as a personal player. Now, if they're going to take away the wire bug dashing, I'm okay with it. And if they want the weapon to be more aggressive, I'm okay with it. But I want it to be more aggressive to the point where it's like your utility comes from your aggressiveness. So because you know how to attack with the weapon and because you understand the what your weapon can do, you take less hits instead of just saying charge, pray, charge, pray. I'm kind of over that.
Okay.
I would
get what
argue
you're
that the
saying.
tackle is exactly what you've been asking for, and like it's always
Mhm.
like that tackle having super armor, and then also letting you link and reposition your character. Like that's huge utility. So I mean, what more could you
Mm.
ever need besides the tackle?
Well, like I was saying, that the tackle and the wire bug dash was the only two utilities that I would have ever asked for. Like if
I see.
if the tackle is there, if the wire bug mechanic was still there, then I wouldn't ask for anything more on the greatsword. I think Rise or Sunbreak gave me the perfect iteration of the greatsword. Why I like that game. One of the reasons why I like that game. Other than like the wire bug dashing upwards or like all the other stuff that came with it,
Yeah.
don't really care for that. One attack. And that one attack that had invincibility frames, that one attack that put the weapon away, and that one attack that gave me a 20%, I think it was a 20% increase to my attack for like 10 seconds. What more could I ask? Like I couldn't complain about the greatsword in that game. I just couldn't. It gave me everything to utilize, to be strong, to be aggressive, but then also allow defensive and evasive techniques as well. I'm saying that if Wilds doesn't have that mechanic to like be evasive, then give me the mechanic that I'm so aggressive that with my aggressive techniques, I'm just like powering through to stay
That's what it
safe.
seems like you're getting with
Yeah.
the shield parry and then with the tackle returning. I think you're getting exactly what you're you're asking for. And then who knows?
Mhm.
Like maybe there's going to be hidden tech with the slinger that isn't showcased in the trailers that might give you
Mhm.
similar mobility to what we saw in Rise. And I could sympathize because my biggest thing with like Hunting Horn, and I've complained about Hunting Horn. I've been playing Hunting Horn since Monster Hunter 2. So like I've been playing it for a long time, and one of the biggest problems with Hunting Horn for a long time was that it lacked a certain amount of power, and it didn't have real
Mhm.
power moves. Like forever, the biggest power move for Hunting Horn was the fucking ground pound, which would fucking send hunters flying if you're close to me, which was like inoptimal in group hunts. But in
Mhm.
Rise, and I don't know if this is an attack that was featured in Monster Hunter Frontier. I don't know. So it might have been in Frontier first. I don't know. So as far as I'm concerned, Rise gave it to me, but it could have originated in Frontier, and I'm just unaware because I didn't play Frontier as much as I would have liked. Um,
Mm.
Rise gave us those special attacks in Earthshaker for the hunting horn, which is that attack where the hunter picks up the hunting horn with like one hand and just stabs it into the monster, and then like plays some notes and then causes like a big sound explosion. That was like the power move that I've always wanted, something like that. And then World Iceborne gave us I forget what they called the attack in the game, but he would stab the horn to the ground and then spin it like a dreidel. And if it's near the monster, it will hit for like it would just rapidly hit the monster. And that was like an awesome move. I really have fun using that move. That one I don't think returned in this game, but the Earthshaker returned, and so I kind of get where you're like, damn, this is the perfect iteration of the Greatsword, and I kind of get it because Rise gave me the Earthshaker, which I did appreciate in Rise. So, as a horn user,
Yeah, but with shielded weapons having that kind of utility, I think it's cool that they're separating the weapons in that respect. Some having counters because they can, or having defensive shield attacks or maneuvers, whereas the other ones are getting. It seems like they're getting dashes. Like the gun lance is using the trigger on the lance to dash away or make distance between him and the monster. If it has invincibility frames, I think that's pretty cool. And it looks like they kept the slide that light bow guns can do.
Yeah. Yeah. And even
So-
added like because she was like doing barrel rolls and shit. So it's like it looks like light bow gun have a ton like of maneuverability options without having to grapple a fucking mysterious zip line from a bug and like whip myself 180 around the monster. That was. I only did it because it gave me a 10% attack buff, but God bless. Was
Listen,
hey, no, I did. Hey.
it was bad. It was bad in Sunbreak because the last set of weapons I used in Sunbreak before I stopped playing was the light bow gun. And I went into hunts untouched. Like, what was that skill that drained your health, but it gave you like an amazing amount of attack increase? I forgot the name of
the
it.
skill attached to the vampire dragon guy? I forget his name.
Nah, not the vampire one. It was the one that was attached to the final alien-looking creature thing, and it had like
What the fuck was his name?
curios
God.
surrounding you.
Bro,
If you couldn't tell, I'm not like Rise. I thought was fine, but like it's not my favorite Monster Hunter game. I grew tired of it really quickly compared to most Monster Hunter games. So like a lot of that game, I've kind of like removed a lot of that game from my memory. So apologies if I forget certain names. It's like, see, I want to say Guzmazius, but that was Monster Hunter 4. It's like Gorma something or the other. I don't remember. That weird fucking hand dragon. Like he had like multiple fingers or some shit. I don't know. It was weird.
Right, but it was I think it was his weapon that gave it, and like the curios, which are the bats that comes from Malzeno or Mal.
Yeah, Malzeno. There you go. Thank you.
Like not Malfestio, but
He needs to come back. But
curios would come around and they'll drain your energy, but the skill was his skill, but it gave you an amazing amount of attack increase. I'm gonna finish my point, but I'm still gonna look for the skill because it's gonna eat me up all night if I don't find it. But either way, I would go into fights with that skill, and I'm talking never get touched, only because of that one wire bug attack that repositioned you in like a 90-degree angle from ziplining like 90 degrees around the monster. That attack was, or that wire bug thing was like, you don't need anything else. You didn't need anything else. It was just amazing. And I'm talking fights would finish in a minute and a half. It's the first time. Rise was the first Monster Hunter where I actually speedrunned monsters with the light bow gun because of that one skill, that one wire bug attack. So that shows how OP wire bugs were.
You know, you bring up a good point about the whole. It seems like shielded weapons get counters or hyper armor or parries, whatever terminology you want to use, and non-shielded weapons, they're the ones that get the dodging. We saw with Hammer, they literally shoot the kind of a mini version of the wire bug, but not insanely overpowered. They'll shoot the oh my
slinger.
god, the slinger. There we go. Ooh, it escaped me. They shoot the slinger into the ground, and they push forward with it. That's cool. Like that's not over the top, but it gives Hammer that little bit of mobility that I'm sure Hammer mains are like, fuck yes, finally. Because the problem with Sunbreak, especially Sunbreak, and especially when you got deep into the end game of Sunbreak, everything needed the counter because every weapon had a counter. Every weapon had a counter, and it felt, at least to me, with the enemies being able to pretty much just one tap you, or one tap me at any rate. I needed that counter to stay alive in certain fights. So after a while, it felt like everybody had, if either you had to be insanely good at dodging naturally, or you had to be insanely good at using the counters, no matter what weapon you were using, ranged or melee.
And that was my problem with Rise personally, but I won't interrupt.
Yeah. No. So it just seems from the little snippets we've gotten, this could be completely thrown out the window in a couple months, sometime in 2025. But from the snippets we've seen, they are further separating even more so from bladed weapons to ranged weapons. They're separating the tanky weapons from the non-tanky. And hopefully that means that late game Monster Hunter Wilds doesn't become, all right, everybody put on the counter. I'm not going to go into a hunt, and if you get one shot because you didn't have the counter, everybody put on the counter. So it's kind of looking like they're deviating away from that formula, which I'm cool. I'm cool. Let the shielded weapons, even the fast ones like Sword and Shield, let the shielded weapons have their shields and use them in a more aggressive sense. That's cool. Let them have that, and give the non-blocking weapons a bunch of evasion options that don't overshadow the aggressive playstyle that the melee weapons seem to have. If that makes any sense. So it's like,
So the monster is called Geismagorm. That was
that does sound familiar. Okay.
Geismagorm, and his skill was dereliction. And as the longer you have dereliction, it's the more these little bats will fly around you and drain your energy. But the bonuses that it gave you was ridiculous. Like level 3 dereliction gave you 35 to your attack plus 35 to your attack stat, which if you do the math, it was basically attack up extra large from old Monster Hunter games. So it was right. And then if you were using elemental weapons, it would give you a value of 20, which that was extremely strong for elemental weapons. And if you were using abnormal status like paralysis or stuff like that, poison, it would give you plus 25%. So it was an extremely overpowered skill combined with an overpowered wire bug technique, and it made the light bow gun pretty much the best weapon, in my opinion, to play at the end game of Sunbreak. But yes, because it was going to kill me all night, so I had to research. So yeah, so I definitely see you guys. I definitely can see where this game falls more in line with Iceborne, and I don't think that's a bad thing. at all. I think that's a great thing. Um, and I'm okay with the grounded, gameplay. I'm I'm more okay with it than I think because when the Insect Glaive first came out, I was excited. It became my main weapon for a few Monster Hunters, but something about the Greatsword just always bring me back because something about the Greatsword was always just so leveled. It was just like it felt normal. It felt right. That's the feeling I get when I play grounded weapons like the Greatsword, or the Sword and Shield. It just feels natural for the space or the kind of game that I'm playing, if that makes any sense.
No, we getcha.
Makes perfect sense to me. That's how I felt about like when they changed Hunting Horn and Rise, and they made it like this weird fucking longsword style weapon. Like it was just swinging all over the place. I'm like, this doesn't feel like it has any weight, and I miss the weight of the old Hunting Horn, but the weight of old Monster Hunter games, which is why like I don't like Rise for a lot of reasons, and that's one of the main reasons is like the flippy do fucking mechanics. I was like, this is all I don't know if I like this. And then I would try to play that game the old school way, and I would succeed, but like the game was designed to be more like this weird fucking fencing counterfest between the player and the monster. Yeah. And for me, that's not why I play Monster Hunter. I don't get I get why people get satisfaction when they successfully counter. I get that, like, and I'm not shitting on that, but I like the smash mouth, grounded, gritty, me versus this giant behemoth of a monster feel, that heavyweight boxer feel, and that's Rise was not. But Rise was the featherweight division. As far as like movement and all that, I was like, this shit is way too fast. Like this is not enjoyable at all. I kind of dug it at first, but I was like, I don't know. It didn't last very long. After about 2 weeks of playing it, I was like, I'm really over this game. I'm just kind of playing it because I kind of feel obligated to play it because I've played so many other Monster Hunter games. So yeah, as far as this new one goes, I'm very satisfied with how heavy everything feels, including the monsters. It feels very balanced. Like they slowed the hunters down, but the monsters also seem very like grounded too. Like we're fighting at the same gravity here, and not some fucking we're fighting on the moon shit. It doesn't feel that way. So I'm happy to see that. So if you guys have nothing else to add, we could talk about some of the new armor and weapon designs that kind of hint at the newer monsters. Is there anything else you guys wanted to add before we move into that?
The only thing I would say left is, again, this was a point that Esoteric made, and I slightly agree with him, but we still have to wait for the game to play, is specifically for the Greatsword, there's always this feel of impact when you hit the monster, and it's usually very visual. Like you can see it even when other people are playing. It's like that you can, like when someone plays the radio really loud, you feel the bass in your body. I'm not getting that vibes from Wild. I'm not. So I don't want to harp on it too much because I've not played the game myself. So that's just my only concern. That's like, that's that gratification of that big hit. Will it be there? Because it doesn't look like it's there. Like the weapons look so grounded that they almost look plain for the most part, with the exception of a few. Maybe like 2 off the top of my head, not including Longsword, because the last time Longsword looked plain was Monster Hunter 2G.
Yeah.
Or MU9. I'm not including that. More so like the Sword and Shield and the light bow gun. They look more like movement is their game. is their thing, whereas everything else is just like plain. Like it's like it's how can I put it? Like it's like they're rebooting the weapons, um, but at the same time giving enough new dynamics to stay interested.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of cool with plain, really, after like the depths of Sunbreak, where it just felt like I was playing an anime game. And, hey, look, I played Phantasy Star, so I've played anime games, but it's just like there's something about Monster Hunter that it feels to me the essence of Monster Hunter at the end of the day is Unga Bunga, spear, and me fight monster. Like obviously we do it with guns and all these crazy over the top weapons, but Rise just added like I was expecting laser guns at a certain point. Like it just got that bad, and it's like I think to me Sunbreak strayed too far off the path. It was like
Yes.
the Resident Evil 6 of Monster Hunter.
Yeah,
And
it's straight too far. I don't disagree with that at all. It's straight
yeah,
way too far. But this one looks like World and Iceborne. Come to think about it, World and Iceborne, I can honestly see why people would say it's the best Monster Hunter game. But Wild and Ice, well, not Wild, Iceborne and what's the one before Iceborne? World, right? World slash Iceborne had that impacting feeling, right? And I'm hoping that that's just there where it, again, I have to play it before I even make that assumption. I can't really sit on it, but I know that was Esoteric's concern, and I just wanted to point that out.
okay, yeah. I think that's gonna come with hands on a game. That's gonna
Yeah.
come whenever the demo inevitably released. But we'll know then.
Mm-hmm. But we can move on to the armor now.
Yeah, I think I could see what you're saying. Because I'm looking at because I'm recording this and I'm recording the gameplay trailers as we speak. And like a lot of the charge attacks don't seem all that different from normal slash attacks from the Greatsword. So I could see that. That might change. I mean, we still have a year before the game comes out, right? So there could be polish that just isn't visible to us just yet. And I've seen that comment very often under these videos and like Instagram posts and stuff like that. So a lot of people share that same sentiment. So I think Capcom's pretty good at feedback, taking that feedback and making adjustments. So I think once the game launches, I think it'll feel fine. I think it'll feel like the Greatsword you know and love. So I'm confident that they'll pull it off. But I do see what you're saying, because I do kind of see that with the hammer gameplay too. Like certain swings that like had a certain oomph, kind of just like just slice through the monster like a normal attack, and it's like before that baseball swing had a little more pop to it, and it lacks that pop. So I get it. I get what you're saying. But I think Tsujimoto and the team at Capcom is going to fix that. So
I have faith in them.
I have total faith. So we got about 10 minutes left to talk about some of the teased monsters that they showcase in the weapon trailers through the armor and weapons. So I'll just quickly go through the three, and then we'll just kind of talk about them. So the Charge Blade trailer, the hunter is wearing like a new regal armor. The guys have like this weird this Bloodborne like helmet. Like you look like a Yarman. Was it Yarman? Yarman, yeah. Yarman hunter or whatever. It has like the weird folded fedora hat or whatever, and the girls have like this frilly dress. And then the axe, the charge blade, had like spider webs on the blade. So there is a new spider monster. We don't know. I don't think it's a Nursilla return, because Nursilla's color scheme was never black, red, and white. And then Not even a subspecies? Because it did have subspecies, right? Or none of them had that color scheme. I don't think.
Okay.
Because Nursilla was more purple, orange, and like a teal, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
His
Okay.
subspecies, I forget what it was called. I think it was like blood woven
It was a
something.
paralysis. Nucilla?
Nursilla, yeah, wasn't it blood related?
Yeah,
Or it was? Oh
no,
no,
it
it was
was
paralysis.
paralysis.
You're right. Yeah, it was paralysis.
Mm,
I don't remember what it looks like though. I
mm.
don't remember its color palette. If you could look it up real quick on your phone.
It was like yellow. I think it was like a yellow thing because it
Yellow
was
and orange, probably.
something like that.
Um,
How you
you could just look up Monster Hunter 4 Spider. I'm sure it'll come up.
say-
So yeah. Anyway, so that's one that they kind of tease. I think it's a new monster. They also had a new point. So the Hammer trailer had the theme with the armor and the weapon was like the plague mask, and like the hammer had like a weird brain that was like pulsating in the middle.
Yeah.
That was really cool design. So I'm really curious to see that monster. Whatever armor that monster comes from is gonna be pretty sick. It might be like a bird wyvern with like a plague mask for a beak or something like that. Who knows? And then the last one is the Switch Axe trailer, which showcased like it was a lot of purples and teals, and it was like everything was wrapped with rags. So I don't know if we're gonna get like a weird mummy monster or something. I don't know. But what do you guys? What's your speculation? Do you think these are returning monsters? Do you think these are new monsters? What's your take?
No, my money's on new monsters.
Yeah.
Definitely new. I mean, it could be some interesting. Like, I like to see I know Monster Hunter tends to kind of give every armor set a theme based on the monster. Like, you'll have some that are like cowboy themed, which we saw in the light bowgun trailer. You have like your traditional Western knight, your samurai. So with the Plague Doctor look, I'm curious to see what the monster originates from. I'm not gonna automatically assume it's gonna be like a horror style monster. It could be because that weapon with the whole brain thing, that was cool, and it also kind of gives me some hope. We're gonna see more of the like the unique weapons, because Monster Hunter is known for a lot of its like unique weapons. I know World in the beginning, they kind of had, well, we're all realistic, so it's just a big ass slab of iron with an Anjanath skin wrapped around it, and people did voice their displeasure, and that changed come Iceborne. So we got more like the fantastical weapons, which I like from Monster Hunter. It makes Monster Hunter unique in that aspect where, you know, they showed it in the Sword and Shield trailer. The traditional Rathalos Sword and Shield looks like a glowing spike, and it would pulsate. In older games, it would pulsate, which was a really cool effect. So I'm hoping we see more of that. That brain hammer kind of gave me hope for that, because like you would see the brain pulsate in its little cage and the little electrical arcs of like the neurons firing. Pretty cool. As far as what the monsters can be, oh man, that's Monster Hunter armor designs can differ so differently from the source, the creature it comes from. I can't make a speculation without it just not making sense. But no, definitely new monsters, which I'm excited for. Definitely like the returning old school armors, like the iron armor. That's a staple. Glad to see that's there. I do like the design for, I guess, what I'll call the iconic armor of Monster Hunter. So every monster has a iconic form. Where, you know, in Rise it was based off like a Japanese village, so it was more samurai ninja based. This one seems to be more like desert nomad cowboy style. And you saw that with a lot of the weapons, like the great sword looked like what I call the, you know, like the poster armor. Same with the gun lance, it kind of gave me that vibe too, and the light bowgun. So I kind of like the default armor style, the tent pole armor style, if you will. I dig that look. Yeah, I mean, Monster Hunter's always had very impressive armor designs. One more thing, I do like the fact that there is very distinct male and female armor designs, because I know the temptation, it is less work to make armor designs very similar between the genders. I do like, at least from what we've seen, that Capcom is not doing that, especially reinforced when we saw that new potential spider armor, where the woman was in a like gothic dress,
Mm-hmm.
gothic Lolita dress, and the male was in like some not ancient, but like some like medieval Europe style uh bloodborne armor from like, turn of the century. So I do love their very distinct looks, and I hope that stays true with all the armor sets. So that's my take on the armor and weapon designs we saw in the little trailers.
Yeah, I'm thinking that they're newer monsters. If any of the three that we talked about isn't new, I would assume it's the spider one, which could be a variant of Rachna Kadaki or Nursilla. By the way, the paralysis Nursilla is white because it wore Kezu skin.
Yeah, I remember that
Right,
now.
and
As you say it, I have a picture in my head now.
that's the only other one. Because I've never seen other spider monsters, even in Monster Hunter Frontier, which I could be very wrong about. But um, I am looking forward to seeing what is the theme, like the overall theme of the game. Like again, I like Japanese lore, and then I also like the what's it called, the trans what where like the werewolf, Dracula, Frankenstein,
Oh,
they come from.
Transylvania, like your
Transylvania.
European
Yeah.
horror. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I also like those kinds of lores. So to combine the two was entertaining for me, especially Luna Garan being a werewolf who can power up by howling at the moon.
That was the yeah, that was
Amazing.
yeah, those like big four that Sunbreak did. I'll give him that. That was really cool.
That was amazing.
Yeah, I'll give him that.
Um, so I'm eager to see what Wilds is. And yeah, I'm really thinking based on the monsters that we've seen so far, they look unevolved. They look like they're in transition of trying to define themselves of what they're ultimately going to become. Like the long monster looks like a Leviathan in evolution, and then the hairy one looks like I guess a pre-version to what Azeroth would be, Azoros would be, like a unevolved bear, because prehistoric animals were bigger than their evolved versions.
Hmm.
So it looks like Wilds is like these monsters are in the process of finding their true, or in the process of becoming more solidified in where they stand
Oh,
on the
okay.
totem pole. So like they're like mid-evolution. They look wild,
So
untamed,
you're thinking we're gonna
unevolved.
seem like more like primeval monsters, like
Yeah,
okay, not like a
yeah,
sleek Valtrax design, but like a very
exactly.
yeah, okay,
Right.
interesting. Hmm.
That's what I'm thinking we're gonna see more of based on what I've seen so far. Like the bear one looks very wild and like like he doesn't think, he just goes. Like very, very what's that word? I don't know why I'm lost of my words today. Um very rabid, rabid, or
Okay.
whatever that word is. Basically, he just attacks because he doesn't know any better, or because he doesn't have that brain power to fully analyze what
Yeah, like
he's
a
fighting.
very primitive monster, not
Yeah,
like
primitive.
Narkuga that's like, it'll ambush
Exactly.
you and right,
Because
okay.
he's thinking through the fight. Like
Yeah.
Markuga is known to be a they look like Tigrex's mindset.
Ah, okay. Just run and
Just
slash
run.
and fight. I get you.
Exactly.
I get you.
Right. Mm.
Yeah,
Come.
so for me, the word that comes to mind when I look at Monster Hunter Wilds and it makes me very excited to play it is feral. Everything looks feral in this game.
There we go. That's the perfect word.
Like everything looks, like you said, untamed, unkept. very, very natural. Like, these hunters don't shave their armpits. Let's put it to you that way. Everything is natural, okay? As God intended. So that to me is exciting, which, you know, me and Gunnar, I think, did this episode a few months ago where we talked about what we wanted to see from Monster Hunter Wilds. This is before all the trailers and everything. And I was saying that I wanted to see more of a survival aspect to the game. And that still stands. Like, I would love that, to where there's just a big map and then you just go and you just do stuff in the map. There's no like, oh, go back to the town and pick a mission. And no. This is an ever-changing world, and you just do like, you want to fight a Ruffalos? Go find the motherfucker, kind of shit. So that's what I would love that. And I would love to see. I don't know if I mentioned this in the last, the episode I'm referring to, but if we get returning monsters, but like what Pokemon did, where it's like prehistoric versions of those monsters, that would be pretty cool. Like if we get Nargacuga and get like a real like extra furry, just unevolved Nargacuga who's just fucking. The man is just wild. Like, he's just all over the place, right?
Yeah.
With, like, maybe 3 tails or who knows, whatever the fuck they decide to do. That would be cool, right? Tiger X, you don't even have to change him. Like, you just dump him in there. He fits in just fine, right? Maybe give him a few extra new spinning attacks, right? Where he knocks himself out because he's a fucking moron. That would be funny. But yeah, that's pretty much it. As far as to answer the initial question, I think these are all new monsters, too. I'd be surprised if there were returning monsters. And I'm pretty excited. Like, I like the armor designs and the weapon designs so far. They're really fun to look at. Like, I had a good time pre-gaming this episode, this recording. We were kind of looking through everything, kind of picking it apart. Like, that was a lot of fun. And to see certain details and stuff. Really exciting stuff. I love just the overall look. Like, even the base armor and weapons, like all of the leather and the stitching and like all the different materials that they have on these weapons. I think the gun lance looks the coolest out of everything. Like all of the wood and the steel and the leather all together, it just looks fucking great. And so that's what I love about Monster Hunter, especially older Monster Hunter games. And this Monster Hunter to me is a return to form. It's like we're going back to like our roots. But it's still new, right? It's still a lot here to chew on for people who have played old Monster Hunter games. So I'm very excited for Wilds. This is going to be a pre-order. This is going to be a day one pickup. This is going to be I'm going to buy the collector's edition. I'm going to buy whatever merch they release for the game, toys or figures or whatever, t-shirts. I'm probably going to invest into all of that. So I'm hoping that it comes out later next year, like in the fall or in the winter, because the first half of the year looks kind of crazy because we got Armored Core model kits coming out. And I'm like, I really don't make me choose, right? Because I'm gonna pick Monster Hunter. So I hope it comes out later in the year because I don't think there's anything at the end of the year that I care about besides Monster Hunter Wild. So. Looking forward to it. Definitely going to play day one. And then we'll definitely do like first impressions. If they release a demo, we'll play it and then we'll talk about it. As they release more trailers, we'll probably do more podcast episodes around Monster Hunter. So look out for that. And with that, let's segue to the end. So if you enjoyed the episode, leave a comment down below, like the video or dislike it if you disliked it. Subscribe. We do podcast episodes. Episodes like this every week. We publish every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern, and we do episodes like this. These are opinion pieces. We also do pieces where we'll dive into an article and talk about more controversial topics. We'll also do like tier list episodes, which tend to go long. There's a variety of content. So if you're into that, if you're into long form content, you'll definitely get that from us here. Check the description down below. I'll link all of our social media links. So we have a Facebook, a Twitter, an Instagram, a Discord, a TikTok, and a Twitch. Mr. Esoteric, who is not currently here, he's sick right now, so he couldn't join us in this episode, unfortunately. He runs a Twitch channel. He streams 2 to 3 times a week, and he plays a variety of games. So definitely check out his channel, give him a follow, and show him some love. So with that being said, gentlemen, thank you for a great conversation. Listeners, thank you for your viewership, and we'll catch you in the next week's episode. Take care.
Take care.